Signor BRUJO, è inutile che ci nascondiamo dietro un dito. Voi come azienda spagnola conoscete bene il forte elemento di concorrenza che si è sviluppato tra il mondo tessile e della moda in Spagna rispetto a quello italiano, soprattutto per quanto riguarda il retail popolare e di massa. Ma per quanto riguarda la sensibilità che la moda e il tessile e la conceria italiana dimostrano nei confronti della sostenibilità, come siete messi? Imitate, vi sentite avanti, vi sentite indietro, vi sentite solidali?
Great. Well, thank you very much.
You want to speak English?
Yes, I'm going to.
I'm sorry about that.
Yes, sorry. I understand a little bit of Italian. Well, you know, I have a presentation, but I'm going to answer to your question.
Very quickly, then we look at your presentation.
Great. So, top line, one of the things that we have been doing at Interbrand, which is a global company, is the leading branding consultancy firm around the world, is to really analyze what is going on with sustainability and brands. You know, because one of the things that we found, let me see if the clicker works, where I need to, let me see.
I'm afraid you are too far from there.
I am too far? Okay.
Can I try for you?
No.
I try for you.
Or I am...
No, non vogliono, si arrabbia il cervello.
Okay, it's very slow, it's very slow. Okay, great. No, okay, we move. Don't worry.
Verrà punita selvaggiamente.
No, I can be a stand-up.
Si prepari a essere frustata con vera pelle italiana.
Well, we are going to talk about the climate conflict, and one of the things that you will see here is that the clicker, give me 1 second, perfect, now it works. Again, too many things are going on right now. We know the world is very complicated. We know that we are regulating here, we are trying to work on made in Italy, we are trying to work on industries, and also the brands are going to play a very important role, but everyone is a little bit schizophrenic right now with so many things going on in the world. I think we have an opportunity. We went around the world and we study customers around the world, and I think the brands are going to play a very important role, even more than the government. Although the governments are claiming that they want to do a lot of good things and they want to regulate, we believe that together with governments, brands can play a very important role in order to make sure that we can drive change. So that is why today is so important. And we need to take into consideration two different things that are going to be major drivers of change going forward around the world. Companies, brands, they need to do things right. You know, I want my iPhone work very well. I want to make sure that it has the latest technology. I want to make sure that it's recyclable. But also they need to do the things right. So there is something about the experiences in the left side and in the right side, something about what we call the ethics and integrity, which is something that right now all the brands, they need to adopt around the world. Because today the combination is about, again, understanding the power of your brand to see how you can convey the message to your customers. You need to have, as a brand, a superlative experiences, amazing customer experience, but also you need to have fantastic way to organize what we call the interactions, and of course doing the things right. But on the right side, the brands, they need to be as responsible as possible. They need to have an integrity, ethics, explain things very well, because sometimes, you know, companies, they do a lot of things, but nobody knows. So it is all about the narrative and communications. And of course, making sure that you prove as much as possible specific actions to do the right thing. At the end of the day, you know, we think that the brands have the power to drive change. The brands can change the world. They can, what we call is act of leadership. And this is something that probably we will need to work harder and harder around the world. Because at the end of the day, you know, we had a target in the Paris Agreement, but the reality is that every year that passes, we are far behind. That means that we need to work together even faster to make sure that we can mitigate things. That is why this specific week is so important for Italy, for the Italian brands, for the government, but also for the world, because this is streaming worldwide around the world. So this is why this is super important. And at the end of the day, we believe that one of the things that we need to fix is what we call climate conflicts. You know, do I create a product that is sustainable 100%, that is 100% circular? Can I make money too? You know, what the customers are going to think about the product. So there is a lot of conflict between the government, between the brands, between the customers, between the regulators, between the deniers. So remember, some of these people think that all the things that we are doing here is bullshit. And some of the things, they said, this is critical for my future, this is critical for my children. So we have an opportunity, and I think brands can offer what we call paths of what we call the green demand. I think brands can play an important role here, and I think we should work better. So what are the 3 things that we need to do to improve these things? The first thing is that I think we need to work together around the world on the narrative. The second thing is making sure that everyone is completely aligned on the actions, and the last thing is making sure that we train the leadership of the companies and the employees around the world and the people that are working to make sure that definitely we can drive well. So what are the 3 ways to improve this? In the narratives, I think we need to be from technical to human language. Customers in the streets don't know about ESGs. Sometimes they don't know about net zero. They don't have a clue. So we need to explain things with different narratives to make sure that you can convey the message to the people in the streets. Organizations are way too centric. They are talking about themselves, they are talking about all the initiatives they are doing, but nobody knows out there. So there has to be much more communications out there to make sure that we can concentrate on the people outside, not inside. And of course, from thinking to feeling and doing, I think there has to be more doing and more investments behind. Sometimes companies, they think, okay, great, I'm going to work on this specific line. It's not a line, it's everything that you need to try to redesign. So that is why, for example, Nike is trying to change the approach as much as possible on everything related to, the communications. They don't talk about ESGs, or they don't talk about any complex word. They are talking about this is trash, things that can be easy to adopt by consumers that they can understand well. In terms of the actions, from the back of the house to the front of the house, I think, again, thinking about the outside world as much as possible, making sure that you can convey the message, and in this case you need to over-communicate. From alternative to core, everything related to sustainability has to be in the center of the business, not outside of the business. And of course, problem to participation. In order to make sure that we can succeed on this specific topic, it's a collective effort. It's a co-creation effort between customers, governments, institutions, and of course brands. And if everyone plays together, definitely we can do a much better job. But again, remember, for example, in Nespresso, what they are doing, they are inviting its customers to participate as much as possible to recycle. They put more than 1,000 points of purchases to make sure that everything that they do is 100% recyclable and innovated as much as possible. And they are asking the consumer, please help me out to do this. I'm not going to do this thing alone. You need to participate with me in order to do that. And last but not the least is conflicts on leadership, which is thinking about, how we are going to be working in terms of a collaborative manner, how we can make this thing a center of the business plans in terms of a CEO and a management, and the last thing, how we can do this thing to measure things around the world, because at the end of the day, there is too many things, but people don't measure, and this is not about ESGs or development goals that you want to tick things. One of the things of development goals is that they are there, now you know how to measure, and you are ticking things, but maybe you are not changing enough, and I think this is going to be quite important, and this is really what IKEA is doing right now in terms of how to change the leadership. Before, the company was about transforming take, make, and waste, and they changed completely the business model. And they are now about, the model is completely opposite. It is reuse, refurbish, remanufacture, and recycle. So they changed completely the business mindset, the business strategy, the business plan, the offering, the product offering, to make sure that they were 100% in the recycle, and they are changing 1,900 products as we speak, and they are really working on this specific model as soon as possible. So at the end of the day, what you need to make sure is that, yes, brands, you need to work brands as an identifiers, you need to work brands as an asset, you need to work on the experiences, on the touch points, you need to understand the brands and the ecosystems of the system, but at the end of the day, the new brands of the future, they need to be acting as our leadership to drive change. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I will sit over there. That's my responsibility. I appreciate very much your presentation, especially when you said we have to move from alternative to core. That's a very important switch.